from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Thursday night edition of the program. And our phone number, if you want to join us on our late night national town hall conversation, feel free, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to get into a few things. Of course, the news of the day. Some of the news of yesterday that we didn't get to. There's so much to talk about yesterday regarding the fallout with Trump. But the big story today, Biden says, we are committed to a peaceful transition of power. I say to Joe Biden, you are lying, you're fake, you're phony, and you're fraud. Let's listen to this.
For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole, that's a fact. We're the people. The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve.
Let me ask a question here. Does that mean, President Biden, President Joe El Baboso Biden, does that mean that you will not direct the FBI and their assets like Ray Epps to incite and direct craziness on January 6th like they did last time? When you say your administration, all of your administration, to the peaceful transition of power. Because the conjecture that I'm offering here is that mostly peaceful was the Stop the Steal rally back in January 6th, but there were a handful of people that were trying to incite violence and did, and got other people to kind of follow along, you know, in terms of like, you know, follow the leader type of thing. Now, I'm not trying to absolve anyone of their behavior or anything like that. I wasn't there. I wasn't breaking windows. I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't banging up barricades. I wasn't doing any of that. Because I was not there. But I am going to say that there were many people that were there just to participate in a peaceful demonstration at the Capitol, little march. And so many people have labeled them as criminals, as some of those people being the FBI and the courts. So when Joe Biden says, I promise and I commit the full administration to a peaceful transition of power, I've got to say, do I really believe him? I want to believe him. I think I do. And I think I believe him more now than ever, only because I feel like when it was his turn to vote, he may have voted for Trump, for all I know. After all, it was Kamala that did him dirty. It was Kamala that took his spot in re-election. Now, granted, he said he may not run for 2 terms when he originally ran, and I guess he reneged on that, and he called her President Harris all throughout his administration. So I guess, I could see why she would be mad at that too. But thus far, everything does seem somewhat peaceful. And I would suspect, again, I don't know anything officially on this, but I would suspect that they realize their gooses are cooked. These people live off of your tax dollars. If they want to continue to live, now they have to say, okay, hold on. Call Schumer. Let's figure out how to get as friendly as we can with these guys. McConnell's out. We don't have McConnell anymore. So what are we going to do? We're going to have to work with Trump. I'm sure Schumer and Pelosi and the rest of them, there's no working with that guy. There's no working with him. What are we going to do? We're going to have to give him something. Right? And Trump now knows the game. right? He's not just a New York builder. He's a former president. He gets to be president twice, 45 and 47. So now, what is it that Trump wants? Well, we know what Trump wants. He wants a solid dollar. He wants people to do well. He wants to make America great again. So the horse trading shall commence. Trump is going to have his wish list of things that he wants to do. Close the border, stop the flow, all of those great things. And he's going to need Democrats to support him. Just because he's got, a majority in the House thus far and a majority in the Senate doesn't mean it's veto proof, doesn't mean that there's no political blowback. So he's going to cut deals. He's going to need to cut some deals. And he's got all the leverage here. So I'm wondering, what is it that the Democrats are giving away? Obviously, they got to give away everything. They don't have many options. You see, if they want anything, they've got to do Mother May I to Trump and to Speaker Johnson. So I'm wondering, what is it that they want? They're not going to get their Green New Deal. They're not going to get all of their wish list is likely not going to happen. It's going to be necessities, right? They're going into a political recession where they're not going to be able to spend like they used to. Their disposable political income has been minimized by this Trump victory, and thank God for that. Now, when good old Doge gets into it, right, Elon Musk and the Department of Governmental Efficiency, along with Howard Lutnick and the leadership of Susie Wiles as chief of staff, first woman ever to be named chief of staff in American history. Who did that? Trump, right? The misogynist, the woman hater, the real war on women, the leader of the real war on women. Yep, it was Trump that has named Susie Wiles as the first female White House chief of staff. When you have all that, you've got a solid team. So we're going to get some reaction to that in a moment from our guest, Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from New York. She's going to weigh in on that. Plus, there was some talk about this Department of Defense directive, and there's information all over the place. I don't see that actually coming to pass anytime soon about the military taking to the streets and killing Americans and somehow that being allowed. I can't see how some policy directive is going to make the Constitution null and void, but stranger things have happened, I suppose. Anyway, I want you to keep it locked right here. We've got an exciting show for you. Then we got General Blaine Holt later, as well as James Rickards. So keep it locked right here. Don't go anywhere. I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S. Our phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I want to listen to you, Rich, all the time.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation, and I want to talk about a bunch of things, right? Because while they keep saying Donald Trump is going to come after his political enemies, it seems like they're the only ones that are doing that type of stuff, right? There was this whole directive from the Department of Defense that was saying all sorts of things. I don't exactly know what it said, but I know that there was a lot of concern around it, and I want to get to the bottom of that and everything else that's going on with the transition, Trump's big victory, and everything else happening. I want to welcome Claudia Tenney, Congresswoman from New York. Welcome back.
Oh, well, it's great to be on. Great to love the topics.
Yeah, right. There's never a shortage of things to talk about. So I guess let's get your initial reaction to this DOD directive. There's a lot of talk about it the last few days going into the election that the Democrats put this in place so that they could turn the military on the public, yet they were claiming that that's what Trump said he was going to do.
Yeah, I actually haven't read it. Like, I know that there was some discussion about it on Twitter, and I haven't had a chance to actually see it. But look, nobody should be fooled by the Democrats projecting everything they're doing. They're projecting onto President Trump. And there's just some really important things to know. There was not a peaceful transition of power when President Trump took over in 2016. They created the entire Russia collusion hoax. President Obama, Hillary Clinton, using outside forces, federal government, everyone. They used all the power of the U.S. government to try to take down President Trump, and they never quit. Whether it was inside the House of Representatives by impeaching him twice, he has withstood incredible lawfare, and even in my own home state of New York, from Letitia James, who incredibly got up yesterday and talked about how she was going to right the wrong of President Trump getting elected. Basically promising retaliation along with Governor Hochul. I mean, this is absurd. President Trump is the only president in American history, who cut the size of the executive branch. No other president has done that. No other president has diminished their own power while they were in office. And it's incredible the number of agencies that he actually went in and changed the rules, made it better for veterans. My son is a major in the Marine Corps. Bad acting people who served our veterans were able to be fired and removed under the guidelines that were not there then. He eliminated a lot of unnecessary regulations. It decreased the number of people that work in these agencies, which decreased the power of the executive branch over which he presides. Again, I can't emphasize how ridiculous these claims are coming from the Democrats all the time, attacking President Trump when he actually ran on exactly what Joe Biden pretended to run about. He's a very authoritarian, ruled by the left wing. I think the shadow government behind him. President Trump was actually the embodiment of self-government, everything Lincoln and our founders promised us. Can we keep our self-governing constitutional republic? That's the challenge of the day, and President Trump promised that, and he delivered. I served as a member of Congress in his first term, in my first term when he was president. It was incredible, rolling back regulations, increasing freedom, actually providing, Americans the opportunity to get back to work, lowering taxes, lowering regulations, keeping us safe on the world stage. It's incredible the way that everything he's done was such a threat to the authoritarian left. And the communists who basically are moving in, as always, they're always a threat. They're always on the periphery. And so I just find it absurd that the DOD would even consider doing this. But look, there's a lot of rot when you have an executive branch that is, over large and bloated, that it blots out the strength and the power of we the people. But I think what this election showed, this tremendous election by President Trump, and even keeping the House, I think growing it, taking back the Senate, is that we the people, withstand and get beyond all the efforts made by government, whether it's election interference, whether all the things that we saw happening from third-party groups, the billions of dollars spent by the left to try to distort President Trump and his record, calling him a Nazi, calling us deplorable, calling us garbage, everything that they've done to us, people that just want to see freedom, self-governance, and those good things. It's amazing what was accomplished in spite of all of that. And being shot at twice. I mean, you could go on, but I see this as actually an incredible gift. I think a lot of people believe it was divine intervention that Trump was able to win, and I'm glad it was a very decisive, clean victory because they really have nothing they can say other than meltdown on CNN and MSNBC.
And that's what they've been doing, right? They've been melting down all over the place. Folks, we're on with Congresswoman Claudia Tenney from New York. And Congresswoman, I know that you had your own fair share of dealing with them trying to keep you out of office when you won your election, saying you didn't win your election, then you had to sue them, and you finally won your election. Then thank God you did. But it seems like there's always an attack on Trump, on Republicans. And even when he does things that are historic, like naming the first female White House chief of staff, like he did today with Susie Wiles, still, it seems like the media is silent on these issues.
They have no interest in the truth. Their game is to destroy anybody in their way on the other side. I love listening to the Democrats. So I did something to myself a little bit after the day after Election Day. I turned on CNN and MSNBC and listened to the meltdown and the exhaustive, breathtaking absurdity of it. And I think people should. I mean, the way they're reacting to this. Who has empowered women more than President Trump? You say the amazing appointment of Susie Wiles. The appointment, remember Kellyanne Conway, the first ever successful woman campaign consultant to run a presidential campaign and bring this historic victory to President Trump when 99% of all pollsters and everyone thought that Trump was going to lose in 2016. All the women that he promoted, and I'll tell you, it was tremendous to me and my family. And I don't think, I think it's all this fear they have and this grip on power. And I come from New York, so it's a Democrat-dominated state, and it's dominated by the left from New York City now because of the way they've been able to manipulate redistricting. And that's the way I've been able to fight back. I'm just a common sense conservative, but I get cast as a crazy right-winger or all these other things. I am common sense. I run a business. It is really hard to run a business in New York, and everyone has trouble running a business in New York. It doesn't matter if you're a woman, if you're Hispanic, if you're Black, if you're Asian, whoever you are, they make it hard for everyone. And that's why I think President Trump resonated so much. He gave people a reason to vote, an inspiration. And look at the difference. I think he won by about 30. I think he had 36 million votes in New York when he ran in 2016. About 37% of the vote, 37% of the 36, and then 37% in 2020. He got 44% so far of the votes counted. In New York State, it's not a winning number, but that's an incredible number. Increased across the board. With all types of people from New York City to all across some of the cities upstate. He did really well because he's speaking to people every day that are tired of being called names and being derided by the left because they're not buying into their orthodoxies and their authoritarianism.
Congresswoman Claudia Tenney, I know that you've been a staunch advocate of the president and the administration of the America First movement, and he's endorsed your candidacy. But I'm curious to know, where do you think we go now that we have Trump in office with Ukraine?
I think look, first of all, I think it's always very amusing when people talk about, I think that people don't understand President Trump. America First doesn't mean never America. It means America leading. And I think what Trump's mission is, and I think it's right, is the most important thing we can do. And Ronald Reagan believed in this, and all good presidents that we've had. The most important thing that the American can do is continue to be an economic powerhouse. Being an economic powerhouse is the greatest strength we have. We also have to have a strong military, and Trump believes in peace through strength, the very thing that Ronald Reagan talked about. When Ukraine was struggling, he gave Ukraine lethal aid when President Obama famously gave them blankets. He understands the need to protect our allies. But we have to have a mission. It's one of those reasons I signed on to a bill is let's define the mission that President Biden refused to do. He just gave a blank check to Ukraine, which, by the way, a lot of countries around the world are corrupt. Ukraine has its corruption issues. The question was, what are we doing that we can have faith in this commander-in-chief and this projecting weakness, making all the wrong moves when it comes to, exerting power and also exerting strength from the United States. I didn't trust him, and I worry about, here we are just spending. What is the mission? Let's define the mission. And as I've said, let's go into a skiff if we have to, a private classified setting. We don't want to reveal to our enemies what the mission is. I think President Trump is going to support Ukraine, but he's also going to demand accountability because he knows the American people will demand that. And I think it's going to be an amazing recovery having President Trump in there with good leaders who will define the mission, will project strength, and you will see actually Putin starting to back off because he realizes we have a real leader leading the world, not just the United States, but leading the world. And I still think President Trump is the greatest world leader in the modern era. He is strong, he is bold, and now we see he's absolutely just a force of nature with his strength.
Congresswoman Tenney, out of time here. Thank you. Appreciate it. God bless you. Folks, we're coming right back.
The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation. It's me, Rich Valdez, live with you until 1 a.m. Eastern time. Again, we're going to be doing some of your calls in about 15 minutes or so. 833-4825-337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and President or Prime Minister Modi from India were amongst other world leaders that chimed in to congratulate President Trump on Twitter and otherwise. And we've got a clip of Bibi. Listen to this.
Netanyahu called the U.S. election a huge victory for President Trump and a, quote, powerful recommitment to the great alliance between Israel and America. Trump's win reunites two leaders who worked together on the Abraham Accords and opposing Iran's expansion throughout the Middle East in Trump's first term.
That's a report from CBN News, Chris Mitchell. And I want to direct your attention to a headline in Newsweek just last night. Hamas calls for immediate end to war after Trump election win. That's Newsweek. Reuters. Palestinians dismayed by Trump's win. Their leaders urge peace. Let's see. New York Times. Gaza's ceasefire talks will probably wait until after Trump's inauguration. Hamas reacts to Trump victory, says he must work seriously to stop the war. And the headlines continue. So you've got Netanyahu weighing in, saying, he's happy Trump is back. You've got Hamas and the Palestinians weighing in. And I think it's time. I'm wondering what the impact of this has been. And to do that, I want to get the take, the assessment, the opinion of a great friend of the program, Brigadier General Blaine Holt, retired from the United States Air Force, former Deputy Representative of the United States to NATO. General, welcome back.
It's so good to be with you. Thanks for having me tonight. What a great week.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. And yeah, absolutely. Glorious, very glorious. I don't know what I like more, Trump being back or the fact that I get to watch the media's heads explode.
I've been watching. It's very enjoyable, very entertaining.
It really is. So let's talk about this. I'd like to get your geopolitical take on this. Newsweek is positioning it as Hamas is calling for this immediate end to the war. Fox News is positioning it as Hamas is reacting, saying that Trump must stop Netanyahu from the slaughter. What's your take on that?
Well, one thing we can say is that he hasn't even been inaugurated yet. That's still 74 days away, and yet we're getting deterrence value out of his coming foreign policy and the strength that he has always exhibited. And so look what happened. I mean, just hours after he got 270 electoral votes, you watched the Houthis come up and surrender to him. We're out. We're not going to. We were just defending ourselves. Anybody could see that. We don't want any more trouble. And so that's a proxy off the table because they're worried that the United States Navy might be unleashed to do what it can do. And then you've got Hamas, which is down to, 5 fighters and a dog named Rex. They want a ceasefire. We want the hostages back. That's the first thing that's going to be the non-negotiable. So think about the Reagan playbook there. And then you've got Hezbollah that its entire leadership is gone. And it's running, there are lots of rockets flying still, but there's a lot of surrender and people pulling away. So Iran is getting back into the corner that I warned you about on this program. The mullahs are in very bad shape. The rial crashed overnight. And this is all before Trump even steps into the office is what he's done. And so now we may see a revolution in Iran with the hyperinflation there. Does that mean then that the mullahs activate carousels here? I don't know, but it's going to be a little dangerous for a while. But I think I see really, really good things ahead, especially as Trump builds this foreign policy team and this national security team.
Well, that's an interesting position, and I agree with you. It's a good testament to the guy just getting elected. I haven't heard Trump say anything in the last couple of days about anything, really, and other than his big speech the other night. And here we are with big international things already happening way before he's even in office. So I think the value, like you said, the deterrence value is definitely there. Folks, we're on with General Blaine Holt. Now, General, moving along, there's a couple of other topics I want to discuss with you, and not the least of which is the national security aspect here stateside of the Trump win. What's your take? Do you think this is like last time where the and again, I don't know, I'm presuming that last time the intelligence establishment was kind of like, a new president? Don't worry, we know how to work with these people. And I feel like maybe this time they might be a little bit more cautious and not so, let's, try and get this guy, or maybe that's naive of me. What say you?
No, I agree with you. I think in 2016, I think what President Trump brought was a great naivete to how bad the swamp is and how sharp those elbows truly are. And we saw it with Russiagate and the entrapment issues with Flynn right out of the gate, and they just kept on going after him with impeachment this, impeachment that. I think what you're going to see this time is a very, very astute President Trump who understands well the adversaries, understands well the swamp and how it works and how it protects itself. And I think that he's going to be very, very cautious around the intelligence community, and rightly so. There's a very bad relationship there. So you're going to see people come into cabinet positions and key positions that are not so much judged by their establishment and what donations they brought to the campaign as what their loyalty is to Trump and what their level of intellect and alignment with his vision is. I think you're going to see a much more unified policy team that has, I can already tell you for a fact they've been thinking through these things for well over a year now, and there's some very good plans of action that are going to come to bear. But he's going to be making some changes, and there's going to be some investigations. There will be accountability for some of the things that we have seen happen in the past 4 years.
Let's talk about that, because, the media is out there saying that he's going to silence journalists. Before that, they were saying he's going to unleash the military on his political opponents. So I want to get your take on that when we come back. Folks, we're coming right back with retired Brigadier General Blaine Holt.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Are you personally worried about political retribution from the former president, now soon to be the president again?
Yeah, I'm not. I expect that it'll likely come, and I'll protect my family and my staff, as any of us are who are threatened by the former president. But look, I'm all in, and I'm worried about the young woman right now in a state with a 6-week abortion ban who doesn't know what she's going to do to protect her body. I'm worried about the students who are going to go to class tomorrow and live in a mass shooter culture because they don't have a president who wants to address that issue. I'm worried about the Ukrainian people on the front lines right now who just saw America walk away from them. So if they can, get up every day and find a way to move forward, I can. That doesn't mean that, right now we shouldn't grieve and be upset, but we have to have a to-do list of what we're going to do to protect this country and not let Donald Trump turn the lights out on democracy.
That is Congressman Eric Swalwell. And, well, you heard it. I'm not going to recap that. This guy is a pendejo if I've ever heard one. But he's just part of the cacophony of voices that are out there echoing this idea that Trump is going to come after people. And I got to say, this has got to be one of the dumbest things I've heard, because Trump hasn't ever done it. He didn't. He could have fired James Comey ASAP. He could have done a lot of things. Right, he could have went after Hillary Clinton, lock her up. He didn't do that. There was so many things he did. There was this whole movement called QAnon that was based on the idea that he was going to hang people at Guantanamo Bay and do all of this stuff. None of it happened. General Holt, what do you make of this?
What I make of it is it's the most amount of projection I think I've ever heard, and it's been those drums have been beaten for some time now. Oh, he's going to lock us up. He's going to do this to us or that to us. Ho, ho, ho. What have they done to him over the past 4 years? Not
exactly.
Forgetting what they did when he was president. $500 million in lawfare, a raid with shoot-to-kill orders at Mar-a-Lago. Come on, an incompetent Secret Service that looks the other way while the man gets his ears pierced? Really astonishing. So, no, he's not going to be in any type of tribunals. But there is processes for accountability in our nation. And rather than having the Merrick Garland run political shop that is there now, projection, we're going to see an AG sit down and look at illegality, look at where accountability needs to come into play. Over the past 4 years, you don't get to just break the law. You don't get to just do whatever you want, and then it's okay. So Swalwell, he's worried that somebody's going to look into his dealings in sleeping with a Chinese spy. That's not an attack. It's not a political thing. It's you represent a clear and present danger to United States security, and we're going to go find out if that's true. And if it is, then you are going to be prosecuted. That's what's going to happen. And you know what? President Trump doesn't have time for any of that. He's going to go run the country. There will be a Justice Department that'll look into these things. And you saw the accountability piece today where President Trump said, if you had a role in the Kabul thing and you're a general officer and you were part of that, I expect your resignation on my desk. That's accountability. That's not looking past things. And here's the thing. We know as a country we got ourselves into too much trouble by spackling over corruption and spackling over illegality. And now you've got we the people out here, we're called by folks like Pelosi domestic violent extremists. If you have, Director Wray putting out sheets saying, a don't tread on me flag is a sheer sign that you're dealing with a domestic violent extremist. Well, you know what? I'm in Idaho, and man, we love that flag. So, no, I think we're going to get back to fairness and rule of law, and there'll be some of that. But I don't think anybody should be preaching to President Trump about lawfare.
Yeah, and it's incredible to me that not just the lawfare, but the entire weaponization of the legal system, and even the silencing, the way they, which one of them has been kicked off Twitter? He was a sitting president and got kicked off Twitter. I think the whole thing is just laughable, General.
But they left the Ayatollah on.
Right, and they left the Ayatollah on. I just, honestly, for whatever reason, it's probably my own error here, but I feel like we should do better. And I know who we're dealing with, right? But I feel like I expect too much from the left at times.
Well, Washington has become too big. It's grown itself too large, and it's too powerful. And the deep state needs to be trimmed down. And yes, there is a deep state. And that power, the unelected power in that town has got to be diminished. And both sides of the aisle fuel that, by the way. And that's part of the equation. But the other part of the equation is accountability, constitutionality, adherence to your oath to the Constitution. And then we, the people, are the self-governed. And if we don't think that you're performing adequately, well, then we expect stuff to be done about that. What we don't expect is billions and billions of dollars going overseas to causes that are secondary to the good people of North Carolina, where you're lucky if you can get a $700 loan out of the government, or you're lucky if they'll even help you, because they might just come take your stuff and give it to somebody else.
Yeah, it really is. It's shameful what's going on. And my hope is that Trump will be able to turn the ship around a little bit. But this is a problem a lot bigger than Trump. And
yeah,
he's part of the solution, but I don't know that he's all of the solution. I feel like this is a generations deep problem, and 4 years isn't going to fix it.
It's not, but a leader has to lead, and what a leader can do. And this is why I like so much that he's got Tulsi Gabbard, RFK, Elon Musk, Tucker Carlson, J.D. Vance. He's got this inner brain trust around him, and these are not people who agree with each other. They certainly don't align politically. And what I like is that he wants to take innovative approaches to things. So the leader is going to spark and drive and create an intent and vision. If others can see how that is adopted by the American people and then go grab it, set aside their curmudgeon projection nonsense that comes out of the mainstream media, and say, you know what, we all got to grab a shovel because we're looking down bad financial straits, bad straits with the invaders who are here, and potential wars overseas, and we got to get that stuff solved. And And what I like is this unity front where we're going to, hey, look, you can join us in a positive way or not, but we actually are going to go fix the country now. And there's something remarkably refreshing and motivational about that.
Folks, we're on with General Blaine Holt. Now, General, let everybody know what your current column is about on Newsmax.com and how they can find you.
Yeah, so the column that I have out, and there'll be another one hopefully out tomorrow, but the column that I have out now is basically about our national security, and that we're at this great crossroads. We're at this point of inflection, and we literally have to now confront these threats that are all on multiple levels, from economic to here at home, and it's going to take real solutions. It's not going to take us just carping at each other, and it's certainly not a blue versus red thing. We've got to set aside this Marxist nonsense that has been an experimentation piece, and we've got to go be we the people now.
Amen to that. Folks, check out the irascible General Blaine Holt on Newsmax. General, always a pleasure to speak with you. Congratulations on making America that much better and all of your effort. We appreciate it. Godspeed, sir.
Godspeed. Thank you so much, brother.
You bet, anytime. Folks, we're coming right back with your calls, your thoughts, and more. And then it's hour number 2. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
We have now let misinformation become the accepted information. It has washed over us. Elon Musk, he buys Twitter, and then he uses it almost exclusively to be a propaganda machine, and we've accepted it. We've accepted a narrative that despite an actually great economic recovery, the vibes don't feel good. So we want to reject it and get something else. And the person we are now betting on to change all of it is Donald Trump, a man who did 2 almost impossible things. He won the American presidency twice, and he drove a casino into the ground. What will the future hold now that America has just decided that we're going to F around and find out?
That's Stephanie Rule from NBC News. You know, she's very, very upset. You heard the whole thing. She says that it's a bad thing that you've got a billionaire, Elon Musk, buying a social media company. But did she complain when Mark Zuckerberg, who owns Instagram and Facebook and WhatsApp, was investing $400 million into the last election? Drop boxes and all? Come on, Stephanie Rule. You're mad because we took a page from your playbook and we got our own billionaire that wants to be involved in politics, right? Last election cycle, everybody's like, oh, how come there's no George Soros on the right? Oh, now we've got one. We've got a free speech connoisseur in Elon Musk, and God bless him. And he's terrific at it. He really is. And when I saw him and Howard Lutnick speaking at the rally in New York City in Madison Square Garden, he asked him, how much money will we be able to gut from the debt? And he said $2 trillion. That's great. Cutting spending by $2 trillion. And I thought, that's fantastic. That's what we need to do. Start cutting and cutting and cutting. More cutting. And when you're done with that, a little bit more cutting. Anyway, I got a clip of these late night, not radio hosts, that's me, late night TV hosts, Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, and they're very upset. I'll get into that in a little bit as well. Plus, reaction from all over the place. We got Karine Jean-Pierre. So much. There's a lot I want to talk about, but we must continue the conversation. So, folks, we're coming right back with a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and then some talk on the economy. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of the program. It's the Thursday night edition. Our number, if you want to call us, 833-4825-337, 833-4-Valdez. And the election of Donald Trump as president-elect, president number 47, it's a big deal. It's got a lot of people with their panties in a bunch. And that's good. That's fine, right? You know, we all get bent out of shape for one thing or another. But something that I wanted to talk a little bit about was how the media is reacting to this, and the response of the people, and a confession of mine, I guess, if you will. Now, you've heard me on this program. I've said I think Trump's going to win with 300 electoral college votes and win 6 of 7 battleground states. I was wrong on that. I mean, I was right that he won 6 of 7, but he won, a lot more than I anticipated. 312 electoral college votes, etc. So that wasn't, the issue. I had some concerns about election integrity, but after our conversations with Watley and others, and just my own experience in life, realizing you can't always go back to the scene of the crime and commit more crimes. I didn't think that was going to be an issue. And guess what? It wasn't. It's an issue, but it's a minuscule one that we handled in the incidents where we caught it. And one you have to stay on top of, right? It's kind of like washing your hands. You got to do it a lot. But the confession I want to make is that I had reached a place where I felt that we were outnumbered. And in fact, we may be, but this election proved otherwise. But I felt we were outnumbered by the people that just would agree with what Harris stands for. Godlessness, a soulless America, massive government spending, no self-reliance, massive taxation, and people were okay with that. And, over the years, you do these types of programs, you talk about history, and you talk about America, and you talk about the news. And I have conversations in real life with real people. And sometimes I would be so disheartened after talking to people, and I'd go, man, we're screwed. Not because of any candidate, but because of what I sensed people wanted in life. It wasn't what I thought we should want. And I can't force my will on anyone, and I'm not going to. That's what the left does. But I was very heartened. I was very happy. I was very pleasantly surprised that there are more of us than there are of them. And we see that. We see it, and that's great. Because there's nothing wrong with a small handful of people being radical. I get it. Or even some minority of people. But when it's the majority and you've got the minority that's just trying to move past this majority, right? This tyranny of the majority, if you will. That's a scary place to be. And honestly, I thought we'd reach that place. I didn't think that we'd have young people involved in this election, older people involved in this election. Going through my Facebook feed, and I see people that I never thought were political, and they likely aren't, but they were forced to become political because of what they saw. And they said, you know what, I want to do my part to make sure that I vote, that I get my people to vote. And I have not seen this level of voter involvement, I don't know, in a long, long time, if ever. I don't think I've ever seen it this enthusiastic, the body politic. And I think that's a great thing. So that is something that excites me. It gives me hope. But some of my counterparts in television, right, as I am here hosting my favorite late-night radio show, Rich Valdez, America at Night, we have Stephen Colbert, Jimmy Kimmel, some other fellow, I forget who his name is, Jimmy Fallon, probably the one I like most of all of them. I like Colbert too. But they're out there, and they were very upset. They were, I think, moved to tears over not the victory of Donald Trump, but over the loss of Kamala Harris. Listen to this.
How are you doing? If you watch the show regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither. Well, it happened again. After a bizarre and vicious campaign fueled by a desperate need not to go to jail, Donald Trump has won the 2024 election. It's almost like you rehearsed that.
Well, guys, last night, America decided to get back with their crazy ex and elect Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States.
I'm still trying to figure out what happened. It was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him, and guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet.
Now, look, I'll push back on that, and I think I do every day. But the reality is it's not a bad night for those of us that voted for Trump. If anything, I'll give you a snapshot. I went to the gym today, two guys. Costa Rican guy and a guy from the Dominican Republic. And we went to the gym and then we went to eat at the Colombian restaurant. Okay, super. Everybody had a smile on. Everybody. And I mean everybody. We went to, yesterday, I go to the gym every day, or like 3-4 days a week. Yesterday, we went to the Mexican place. And the waiter comes over, and he saw my MAGA hat, and he saw that we were watching the news on the cell phone while we were waiting for our order. And he said, with a big smile, Trump ganó. Trump won. And we were like, yeah. And he was like, thumbs up. Hispanics, by and large, are law-abiding people that want to see things done well. And this is not a defense or a special plead for Hispanics. This is really just that to make the case that Democrats of all stripes voted for Trump. Not all Democrats did it, but it was Democrats that put Trump over the top. They keep saying, oh, Hispanic men, black men. These were not Republican Hispanic men or black men. These are Democrats that were tired of being disaffected by their party, being disenfranchised by the system the Democrats have created. It was them that put Trump over the top. And kudos to all of them. But the reason that happened is because there are more of us. And by us, I mean people that love America, that want to raise their kids in a safe environment and do well financially. There's more of us than there are them, tax and spend liberals that want to continue to add to our deficit and put us in a problem and have, one conflict after the next to keep spending and spending and spending. And that, my friends, is encouraging. Anyway, I want to talk about the economy. I want to talk about the Federal Reserve. I want to talk about the possible move back to the gold standard now that Trump is back. So much to discuss, so little time. Here's the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue our conversation straight till 1 a.m. Eastern time. The phone number, we'll get into your calls in about 20 minutes or so, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And it's not just Jimmy Fallon and Stephen Colbert and the rest of the late night hosts that are really upset and lamenting over the big win by Donald Trump, El Trumpito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States. No, there's other people that are lamenting, but there's also people that are happy. And I think a lot of people that are happy are Americans, right? Just everyday Americans that are looking forward to seeing the economy improve, to getting back to a time where, I don't know, just a few short years ago, where we didn't have inflation at the rate that we do, where things were a lot easier and in grasp, within arm's reach. And that doesn't seem like the case anymore. Now, earlier today, Kayleigh McEnany was on Fox News, and she was discussing a particular voter, who was voting for Trump based on the economy. And it was an interesting story, so I want you to hear this.
The New York Times kept up with undecided voters, and today they told us what their decisions were. And there was a 78-year-old man, he was in Pennsylvania, and he said at the start of this election there was a 50.01% chance he voted for Trump. He didn't consider himself MAGA. Maybe there were things he didn't like about him personally. And he said then Kamala came on the stage, and he waited to hear about inflation and the border and what she would do differently than Biden, and she didn't provide those answers. He decided to vote on Trump, and he said it was not by a huge margin. He said it was a whopping 51% chance that he ended up voting for Trump, and he did. And a 24-year-old cited the same reason. He said, she didn't tell me how she would change the economy from Biden. These are the voters that are going to determine this election. They may have decided by a 51% margin to vote for Trump, but it was that economy, it was that moment on The View when you heard Kamala say, I wouldn't do a thing differently than Joe Biden, that made the difference with these New York Times voters.
So there it is. People made their choice based on the economy. Now, the economy is a interesting topic, the one that we talk about often, and I want to dig into it with James Rickards. Now, Jim Rickards is the editor of Strategic Intelligence. It's a financial newsletter. He's the author of MoneyGPT, AI, and the Threat to the Global Economy. And he's been an investment banker and a commentator and a lawyer for a long time. And he's an expert on this stuff. And I want to bring him into the conversation because there's a few things that I want to talk about. One, the effect that the election will have on the economy, his thoughts. B, where we go in the grander scale of things, like, do we a return to the gold standard? Do we end the Fed? And B, I want to learn about the book, right? This fantastic book, MoneyGPT, AI, and the Threat to the Global Economy. Jim Rickards, welcome back, sir.
Thank you, Rich. It's great to be with you.
Let's dig into piggyback off of what Kayleigh McEnany was saying, where we have a lot of people that voted for Trump holding their nose, whatever it was. I don't know if it's a lot or a little, but based on the economy, whether it's Kamala Harris's lack thereof of a plan or Trump's past performance. And I think there's an expectation by some, maybe not many, but definitely by me. I feel like this is it. This is his shot, his legacy. Does he do something major? Now, he didn't campaign on ending the Fed. He didn't campaign on changing the dollar from a fiat currency to a asset-backed instrument currency. But there's movement. And again, I'd like your thoughts on whether or not you think that the BRICS consortium is really making waves and getting closer to eating our lunch, or is that just like hyperbole?
Well, it's not hyperbole. The BRICS are a real problem, but Trump is the answer. And it's just as you had that interview with Kayleigh McEnany where she said there was a voter, he wanted to hear what Kamala had to say, he had an open mind, and he didn't hear anything. She didn't provide anything. Trump is the opposite. We know exactly what Trump is going to do. Now, it's going to be difficult, a lot of work, but he's going to revive something. It's actually called the American system. And believe it or not, it goes back to 1790. Alexander Hamilton and George Washington were the proponents of it. It was carried forward over the centuries by Henry Clay, a senator, Abraham Lincoln, William McKinley, Dwight Eisenhower, all the way up until 1962. So what was the American system? It had four parts. One was high tariffs. We have high tariffs so we can have high-paying American jobs. Two, infrastructure. It could be public investment or private investment. But if it was public, if it was government money, you weren't going to waste it. In the 19th century, they built canals and roads, bridges. Late 19th century, the railroads. Today, it could be internet infrastructure, digital infrastructure, outer space. But it's basically infrastructure that brings technology and jobs. Three, a strong military and navy, but not to run around and in endless wars and invade other countries. A military that would protect the United States and U.S. interests, but not do anything else. Not, like I say, try to overthrow a deterrent and a shield but not running around doing these endless wars. And the fourth thing, they actually had a central bank, the first bank of the United States from 1796 to 1792 to 1812. It was a central bank, but it had very limited powers, not at all like the Fed. They weren't trying to micromanage the economy, move interest rates, so-called stimulus. They weren't doing any of that. Their only job is to basically lend to commerce and to the government and to basically provide liquidity. And that was it. So now what happened was, beginning in 1962, we embraced free trade, globalism, open borders, open capital accounts, say free trade in particular, and this whole idea of comparative advantage, do what you do best, that doesn't work because the factors of production are mobile. So if China brings cheap labor from the country to the city, and then the United States brings the capital to China, now they've got the cheap labor and the capital, and they're eating our lunch. Trump is going to end that. And by the way, Trump is all in favor of this, but the big brains behind it, Robert Lighthizer, who was actually was deputy trade representative under Ronald Reagan. Lighthizer single-handedly saved the U.S. auto industry in the early 1980s from the Japanese. He's going to do the same thing today, except the threat is the Chinese. And he's going to look at the Mexican plants. Okay, we have USMCA, which was NAFTA. That's the successor to NAFTA. So cars can come from Mexico to the United States with no tariffs. So what the Chinese did, Trump's going to put tariffs on China, but the Chinese bought the Mexican plants, not all of them, but a lot of them. So Trump's going to single them out. He'll have to carve out an exception to the treaty and put tariffs on those as well. And what is that going to mean? He's not saying that foreigners can't sell cars to the U.S. He's saying you have to make them here. Hey, China, you want to sell cars to Americans? Fine. Build your plant in South Carolina or Tennessee or California, wherever you want, but it has to be made here, and those jobs have to go to Americans. So they're going to do that. And I said the other elements, rebuild defense, get the Fed back in its place. Please stop the $10 trillion of money printing. Just be a lender of last resort. Be there as a source of liquidity, but stop trying to manage the economy. Build up defense and have some smart infrastructure. And again, I think Elon Musk is going to play a big role there. So this is the American system. It's not new. It's been around since 1790. But Trump's going to bring it back and take the economy out of the hands of the globalists and put it back in the hands of the American people.
Outstanding. Folks, we're on with James Rickards. He's the editor of Strategic Intelligence financial newsletter and the author of the book MoneyGPT, AI and the Threat to the Global Economy. When we come back, I want to talk a little bit more about the Fed and maybe reining in the Fed or managing the Fed if we're not going to be ending the Fed. And, of course, I want to spend a little time on the book as well. Again, the book is MoneyGPT, AI and the Threat to the Global Economy. Our guest, James Rickards, is an investment banker and a lawyer, and he's been doing this for a long time and understands it well and helping us understand it. When it comes to this stuff, it's always Greek to me. So, folks, stick around. Don't go anywhere. And, of course, your calls are coming up, I'd say, in about 15 or 20 minutes. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez is the number. And keep it locked right here. We're coming right back with our guest, Jim Rickards.
I'm so glad to be on your show, Rich. It's just an amazing broadcast that I hope the rest of America listens to every day.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
We don't know exactly where that is. We only know it by its works. We're pretty sure it's below where we are now. But as we move further, there will be more uncertainty about where that is, and we're going to move carefully as this goes on, so that we can increase the chances that we will get it right.
That is Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve. He says that the Fed is going to keep reducing their key rate to neutral status. But then he went on to say that Trump's election won't affect the Fed's decisions at all. Listen to this.
In the near term, the election will have no effects on our policy decisions. As you know, many things affect the economy, and anyone who writes down forecasts in their job will tell you that the economy is quite difficult to forecast looking out past the very near term. Here, we don't know what the timing and substance of any policy changes will be. We therefore don't know what the effects on the economy would be, specifically whether and to what extent those policies would matter for the achievement of our goal variables, maximum employment and price stability. We don't guess, we don't speculate, and we don't assume.
So there is, again, Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell. They went on to ask him about him resigning, and he said, nah, not a chance. I'm here for a 14-year term. Good luck. So seems like he's not interested in playing ball. I don't know how to take that, but I want to get some reaction to that from our guest. Our guest is Jim Rickards. He is the editor of Strategic Intelligence. That's a financial newsletter. Make sure you sign up for that. And, of course, the book. He's the author of the book MoneyGPT, Artificial Intelligence and the Threat to the Global Economy. I recommend getting a copy of the book for yourself, one to give away. We got all the holidays coming up, so make sure you get at least 2 of those. Jim Rickards, what do you think of Chairman Powell here?
Well, Rich, whenever anyone asks me about the Federal Reserve or Jay Powell in particular, the first thing I remind them, in 1836, Andrew Jackson abolished the central bank that we had at the time. This was the second bank of the United States.
God bless him.
Got rid of it in 1836. By the way, when Andrew Jackson left office, there was no national debt. He paid off the national debt, last president to do so. So Jackson leaves office, 1836. We have no central bank and no national debt. What happened over the next 75 years? It was one of the greatest periods of prosperity in the history of the world. The United States, the steam engine, the harvester, telephone, telegraph, movies, the internal combustion engine, automobile industry, Henry Ford, on and on and on. And there was no central bank. So it proves that we don't need a central bank to have a strong economy, because we did it for 75 years. Indoor plumbing, you name it. Anyway, there's an enormous period of American prosperity, global reach, increase in the military, increase in wealth, no central bank. So the Fed comes along, 1913, our friend Woodrow Wilson, who Mussolini said...
What a jerk he is.
Well, Mussolini actually wrote that Wilson was the prototype for Italian fascism. He said, we studied Wilson, and that's where we got our ideas. He actually wrote that. But, okay, so 1913, coming forward, we have a central bank. Now, the central bank has, if you want one, has a legitimate role as a lender of last resort. Bankers can be relied upon to screw up, every 7-10 years. And if they need someone to come along and bail them out, the central bank is good for that. But stop right there. Everything else they do is either smoke and mirrors or a waste of time. And by the way, Powell, in the clip you played, Rich, he talked about the dual mandate. Well, what is that? Well, this is under Humphrey Hawkins Act of 1977. They're supposed to keep unemployment low and price stability. Okay, sounds good, but those things are inconsistent. Sometimes, if you want to have price stability and you raise interest rates, unemployment's going to go up, or vice versa. If you're trying to stimulate the economy, bring unemployment down, you're going to cause inflation. You're not going to have price stability. So right away, they've been given 2 jobs that are not their bailiwick, not their responsibility. They contradict each other. So it's just been one blunder after another. So there's a good case for abolishing the Fed, number one. If you want to keep some kind of central bank with limited powers as a lender of last resort, okay. But, you spend most of your time on the golf course because we don't have that many. We have crises, but not that many. But the central bank we have is mostly a myth. For example, we talked about Fed money printing, right? Well, how do they actually print the money? I mean, how do they create it? Well, what they do is the Fed calls the big banks, so Goldman Sachs, Citi, Morgan Stanley, and they say, offer me Treasury notes, offer me 5-year notes. They do. Okay, done. The banks send the notes to the Fed, and the Fed pays for it with money that comes out of thin air. So that criticism is true. That money does come out of thin air. But then you have to say, well, what do the banks do with the money? They give it back to the Fed as a bank deposit called excess reserves. So you're inflating both sides of the balance sheet. You're piling up Treasury securities. You're piling up deposits in the banks. But the money doesn't go anywhere. It's sterilized. It doesn't do any good. The money that does drive the economy, that can drive the economy, comes from commercial banks. If I get a loan and they credit my checking account because I just signed a note, that money comes from thin air too. But I'll actually invest it or use it or hire somebody or buy something. That's the money that drives the economy. When you see interest rates heading down, everyone says, "Oh, that's stimulus. That's good." No, it's not. Low interest rates are associated with depressions and recessions. When the economy what's wrong with a 6% interest rate if you can borrow and make 10%? In other words, in a prosperous economy, entrepreneurs hiring people, growing jobs, growing businesses, interest rates are supposed to be a little bit higher. And I'm not talking about 20%, but 5, 6, 7% in a world where you can borrow and make 10, 12, 15, 20%. That's a robust economy. So don't be misled by the Fed. They are lowering interest rates. You're absolutely right about that. But that is not a good thing. That's a sign that growth is slowing. Now the challenge for Trump is going to be, okay, so we're maybe on the edge of a recession. People feel it. Unemployment, job creation has dropped. If it wasn't for government jobs, it would have been negative last month. Interest rates are dropping, which is a bad sign. It's not stimulus. It's a sign of nobody wants to borrow or lend. How does Trump get us out of that? My forecast is that Trump's policies are extremely good over a kind of 2 to 4 year horizon. I would expect 4 years from now the economy will be booming. The problem is he might face a recession, not his fault. He may inherit a recession from Biden. So the first 6 to 9 months could be rocky. But by the way, the guy who did that, who experienced exactly that, was Ronald Reagan. 1981, 1982, when Reagan came in, that was the worst recession since the Great Depression at the time. But 1983 to 1986, we had 16% real growth. 16%. That's like over 5% a year, which is not sustainable. But man, was that a boom! So Reagan was smart. If you're going to have a recession, get it over with early, and then finish strong. And I think that's what Trump will do.
So now, Jim Rickards, author of MoneyGPT, AI and a Threat to the Global Economy. If this recession comes, I don't know, let's say it hits in 3-4 months or something like that. Is that the time to buy real estate, buy precious metals? Will precious metals also go down in the recession?
Precious metals are going up, gold in particular. Silver will tag along. Silver has industrial uses as well as being a precious metal. It's harder to analyze, but it'll tag. There's no way gold's going to say $5,000 an ounce, which I expect it will. Silver will make its way to 100, so silver will tag along. But focusing on gold, look, interest rates and recessions matter, but there are bigger forces at work. Central banks are net buyers. From 1970 to 2010, central banks were net sellers. The U.S. sold in the 70s. We stopped around 1980. We suckered the British into selling half their gold in the late 90s. The Swiss sold 1,000 tons. The IMF sold 1,000 tons. But by 2010, that game was over. Starting then, that was the inflection point. Central banks became net buyers, but different countries. Who was buying? Russia, China, Philippines, Vietnam, believe it or not, Kazakhstan, Turkey, Iran, although they do it secretly. So the BRICS and their allies are buying up all the gold. They're buying about a quarter of total production. So you have kind of a floor under it. So my point is, the economy will go through business cycles. Interest rates will go up and down, and that matters. But what matters more is the buying of the physical gold by the central banks. And by the way, I did a financial war game for the Pentagon in 2009. And I played the scenario. I was on the China team. I helped structure the game, but then I was on the China team. I had a friend of mine on the Russia team, and we cooked up a plan. We said we're gonna basically acquire all this gold, start a new currency backed by the gold. If you want to buy our stuff, you have to pay us in the new currency. And by the way, if you want some, put your gold in this vault in Switzerland. We'll give you some of the currency and go for it. Now that was obviously way forward leaning, but that's the whole idea of a war game. You're trying to get the Pentagon to think outside the box. There were experts there. It was, the CIA and the FBI and the Treasury and the Fed, all the academics. They were all there. We were laughed at. We were ridiculed. They said, "What are you talking about?" Well, guess what? Since that war game, Russia has quadrupled its gold reserves from 600 tons to 3,000 tons. China, same thing, about 600 tons to 3,000 tons.
China's buying everything.
Correct. Japan went from 600 tons to 900 tons. And they're not even an enemy. They're an ally, but they're stocking up with gold. And so is everyone else. So, and I've spoken to Bernanke about this. When they tell you that, Bernanke said, gold is a tradition, we just kind of have it around, but who cares? No. Why would the United States have 8,000 metric tons of gold if it wasn't a monetary asset? And why would all the other countries I mentioned be quadrupling the reserves if it wasn't a monetary asset? So the answer is it is. They just don't want to admit it. But when I see gold prices going up, it's going up. It's doubled in recent years. 1,800 now. It's up to around 2,700. Still going strong.
You think we'll double again?
Yes. And when I see that, but here's the point, Rich. I don't say to myself, "Oh, gold's going up." Gold is gold. It's a atomic number 79. It's an element. It just sits there. But what's really happening is the dollar is crashing. When the price of gold goes from $2,000 an ounce to $4,000 an ounce, you can say gold doubled, but you can also say the dollar just fell by half, and that's what's going on. The dollar's not losing value to the euro, the Swiss franc, and pound sterling. But who cares? They're all in the same lifeboat. They're all currencies. If you want to know how the dollar's doing, look at the price of gold.
James Rickards, stand by. I want to come right back and wrap this up and talk about the book as well. I'm really curious to see if we should be putting our money in gold or not. Folks, we're coming right back with Jim Rickards.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
There is more news in your commentary, in your analysis, than there is on the news network.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And we continue our conversation with Jim Rickards, author of MoneyGPT. And Jim, with this impending recession that Trump is likely to face, what should listeners do if they've got 40, 50 grand in the bank that they want to hedge against the recession? Do they try to get in on real property? Should they buy gold? What say you?
Well, this is part of what the book is about, Rich, and there's a concept I talk about in the book. It's called the fallacy of composition. Sounds fancy, but it's a pretty simple idea. So let's say you're at a baseball game, and you don't have a good view. The guy in front of you, his hat's too big or he's too tall, whatever. So you say to yourself, well, I'm going to stand up and get a much better view of the game. So you stand up, and you have a great view of the game. But what happens next? The person behind you stands up. The person behind her stands up. Next thing you know, the whole stadium's on their feet. Nobody has a better view, and everybody's worse off because they're all standing up. So that makes the point. The things that work for an individual may be fine for an individual, but they can be catastrophic if they're carried too far. And this is the problem with artificial intelligence in the stock market. I'm not bashing AI. It's everywhere. It's on your refrigerator telling you to change the water filter. It's on the dashboard of your car. So AI is everywhere. It's here now. But as it applies to the stock market, if you put it into the decision-making process, and that's happening, there are hedge funds that are already using AI to pick stocks and actually having some good results. But the problem is, let's say you have a stock market crash, and they do happen. March 2020, the stock market fell 30% in 1 month. That was not the biggest drop in history, but it was the fastest drop of that magnitude in history. So what happens in a situation like that? Well, stock markets go down. People watch it for a while, and they say, you know what? Making money is hard, but I sure don't want to lose it, so I'm going to sell my stocks, get cash, go to the sidelines, wait it out, and then when the coast is clear, I'll jump back in. The problem with that is that's a good individual strategy, but if everybody does it, what happens? The stock market drops like a stone. It goes through the floor. It keeps going. And that's human nature to some extent, but when you combine it with artificial intelligence, it accelerates it, it amplifies it, makes it happen even faster. Now, there are solutions to that, and I talk about them in the book, but for the individual investor, to go to your question, Rich, have a slice of non-digital assets. If you want some stocks, fine, cryptocurrencies, knock yourself out. But have some gold, some silver, some fine art, some natural resources, land. Those are things that are not going to be affected by the kind of stock market crash that I'm warning about. And I explain it all in the book. It's all laid out there. I hope people enjoy it, and they learn a lot about AI because it's there, and the point is it's in the markets. It's going to affect the markets, so you need to be aware of it and know what to do.
Outstanding. Folks, Jim Rickards is the author of the book MoneyGPT, AI and the Threat to the Global Economy. I recommend you get 2 copies of the book, one for yourself, one to give away. Jim, let everybody know where they go to get the book. Where do they go to follow you? What's the best place?
Thank you, Rich. I'm on X. It used to be Twitter. Now it's X, at James G. Rickards. I use my middle initial G, so at James G. Rickards. The book, MoneyGPT, is available now on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. It'll be in the bookstores on Tuesday, but you can order it now on Amazon. And again, I hope people get a lot out of it.
Pre-order the book. Again, MoneyGPT, AI and the Threat to the Global Economy. Jim Rickards, I want to thank you for being with us. Great conversation as always. Godspeed to you. Hope to have you back real soon.
Thanks.
You got it. God bless. And folks, Open Phones Across America is about to kick off in the next segment. We're going to come right back, but I'll give you the number just to get your calls in. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos. So you remember a couple of months ago we had Newsweek editor Batya Unger-Sargon on the show, and she was on the Fox News channel and outlining how the Democrats have created the illusion of a national abortion ban so they could ignore the issues when there was no national ban. Listen to this.
This election pitted a fake problem, a national abortion ban that Trump promised to veto, against real problems, the economy and immigration. It pitted the needs of rich, white, progressive women who need to feel like they are the oppressed class, and so they invented this myth that there was a national abortion coming against the real and pressing needs of working class men who can no longer support their families because of the economy that the Democrats built, which is an upward funnel of wealth from the working class to the elites. And that is why Donald Trump is crushing the Democrats with their own voters. It's not rocket science. He picked up the Democrats' economic policy because it was the Democrats who used to say, we have to have a strong border to protect working class wages. That's what's so frustrating is a college degree has become the gatekeeper of the American dream. And so basically what's happened is the people who hate America the most are the only people now who can afford to support family. It's very, very unfair. And again, it's because of Democratic policy that was put in place, replacing their pro-worker policy, which Donald Trump showed up and simply lifted right off of them.
And there you have it. Right, that's the truth, and forget about the abortion stuff. Right, that just happened to be the issue they glommed onto. The real deal here is that they just created a fake issue, so that it's kind of like the three card Monte game, right? You follow the card. You never know which card you're following, and that's the whole point. It's all political sleight of hand. It's all meant to trick you. Guess what? It didn't work. And she's right, and I said it before, and that's why I played this. It was the Democrats that put Trump over the top, right? I said we were outnumbered, and we are. We're always outnumbered when it comes to registration. This time it was different. We registered more than anybody. Why? Because people got tired of this stuff. Nobody wants to be broke. This is America. Come on. Nobody comes here and says, I'm going to go to America so I can struggle. Everybody comes here so they can make it. Anyway, folks, your calls and more are coming up right now. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. I want to get your thoughts on the Trump re-election, election 45, 47, all that and more. I'm Rich Valdez. Don't go anywhere.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez. America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the third hour of the program. We call it Open Phones Across America. And here's the number if you want to join Open Phone America on our Thursday night edition of the program. We're live or national, and here it is, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Of course, you can check out any interview you may have missed tonight at richvaldez.com. That's Valdez with an S. And the social media at Rich Valdez with an S. Now, I want to get into a few things because I was seeing some comments on social media about the Jack Smith stuff, and that was a big development that we haven't spent a lot of time talking about, but I suspected that that would be the case, and it is the case, that Jack Smith will not be employed by the Department of Justice much further, and it's presumed that his cases are going to be going away along with him. Listen to this report.
We have some news about special counsel Jack Smith. Donald Trump said recently that he would fire Jack Smith, quote, within 2 seconds of taking office. Well, we found out that he may not have that opportunity. The reason is that the Department of Justice, where Jack Smith works, cannot prosecute a sitting president. Fox News is told that Jack Smith will be gone from his post as special counsel, meaning the cases will be gone before Trump takes the oath of office at noon on January 20th. This is the documents case, though that was dropped already by Judge Eileen Cannon back over the summer, and it's on appeal, but also this case for Trump's alleged efforts to try to overturn the 2020 election. So given the fact DOJ policy says you cannot prosecute a sitting president, expect Jack Smith's cases to be done. The last case, and I'll end on this, is that Atlanta case that deals with the 2020 elections. That's a local Georgia case. We've seen over the last year how that has played out with Fonnie Willis, Nathan Wade. That has many problems, many different delays. So the bottom line for my story to all of you right now, Donald Trump's legal problems have essentially all gone away.
And this is what I think every lawyer that we had on mentioned would happen in the event that he was elected president. And there was some sneaking suspicion in the last couple of days. What would happen? Will they put him in jail in Rikers Island between now and Inauguration Day, and this, that, and the third? And again, some of that wouldn't come as a surprise to me. But with Jack Smith out of the picture, that just leaves us with Fonnie Willis and who's the other one? Letitia James. Now that one, she's dying to get him. Her and Alvin Bragg. So let's see what happens with that. But again, will the American people, kind of sign off on that? Will they be like, yeah, go for it? I think this would have more blowback on them than anywhere else because of the decisive victory. And that's the beauty of it. If this would have been, a close call, they might say, hey, you know what, let's lock this guy up. We still have half the country on our side. But they don't. They don't. The half that they had jumped ship. And they're with Trump. And it's because of these stupid shenanigans, pretending they don't know that people, we, in and of ourselves, don't know what we need. Of course we know what we need. Nobody knows what we need anyway, better than us. Donald Trump's victory on Tuesday means that this stuff is going away. The lawfare against him is pretty much falling apart, and that's a good thing. Because he's been battling 2 state cases and 2 federal cases. One which was tossed out by the Judge Eileen Cannon, and the other one where he was historically convicted by a Manhattan jury. So NBC News is reporting that the Justice Department, some of their officials are trying to wind down some of the cases. And I think that's a good thing. We have another clip that I wanted you to hear because there's some speculation out there on how they may choose to restructure everything. Listen to this from CNN 23.
Another thing that he had wanted to do for quite some time is yield enormous amount of executive power, and in doing that, that would mean taking the Justice Department, which is under the executive branch, but technically has operated historically as an independent entity, and moving it underneath the executive so that he would have so much more power. That means that one of the most critical jobs in this administration will be Attorney General.
Now, this is not entirely accurate, right? Because there's there's a lot of ambiguity here. This reporter is wrong. I'm giving you some analysis from Mark Paoletta, an attorney. We had him on the show a while back during the Trump cases. And the reporter's wrong constitutionally and historically, claiming that the Department of Justice is technically operating historically as an independent entity is not accurate. The Constitution vests our elected president with all executive power, including the Department of Justice. He has the duty to supervise the Department of Justice, including, if necessary, on specific cases. Our system does not permit an unaccountable agency. This is something Chief Roberts highlighted in the United States versus Trump. Quote, the Constitution vests the entirety of the executive power in the president. That means the president himself is the executive branch. Now, there are many examples going back to our founding with George Washington, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, vigorously directing prosecutors to initiate or drop specific cases. In recent times, even after Nixon, there were many examples, such as Reagan directing the DOJ to stop an antitrust prosecution against a British airline over the DOJ's objection. George H.W. Bush directing the DOJ to move into overdrive to bring federal civil rights criminal charges against LAPD officers in the Rodney King incident. The president has a duty to supervise the types of cases the Department of Justice should focus on and can intervene to direct the DOJ on specific cases. He is the duly elected chief executive and has every right to make sure the executive branch, including the DOJ, is implementing his agenda. And this is why when Biden would say, I'm not involved, and I get it, people do try to stay impartial, but it is part of their duty. So, for example, the president could direct the DOJ to significantly increase resources to prosecute criminals at the highest level, or at least the highest charging level, and to seek the maximum sentence to devote maximum resources to deporting illegal aliens, acting against sanctuary cities, defying and obstructing federal law enforcement efforts, and seeking restoration of death penalties in all possible cases for horrific crimes, right? You're talking about drug trafficking, child molestation, and rape. That's something that the president can do. The president will not use the DOJ for political purposes, and that is to go after individuals simply because they are political opponents. But just because you are a political opponent does not give you a free pass if you have violated the law. Now, in contrast, you've got Democrats that went after President Trump solely to punish him because he was their political opponent. They invented crimes, twisted statutes, abused their offices and power. All of this, why? To stop him and destroy him. So thanks to President Trump's fortitude and perseverance, they failed. The president should supervise and direct the DOJ to implement his agenda, which was voted on and supported by a landslide majority of the American people 2 days ago, or 3 days ago now, on November 5th. And that is from an op-ed called No One is Above the Law by Mark Paoletta. And I agree with that. I approve that message. So that's the story on that. Now, I want to get to some of your calls on this and some of the other stuff we're going to get into. Again, the number 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations, everybody. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
but
right.
You're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. It's Rich Valdez. We're doing open phones across America. The phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. I'm going to get your thoughts on everything going on in America at night. And let's go to Pete calling us from Central Illinois, WLS. Pete, go for it.
Yeah, Rich, I just wanted to let you know that I really enjoy your program. I listen to it on my way home from work. And anyway, I'm excited that hopefully we won't get to go through a depression, but hopeful for our future because we have a good commander-in-chief coming to us. And, I think that he believes in the Lord and that he will turn us back around into something exciting.
Well, Pete, I appreciate that. And, we've had some good conversations with E.J. Antoni and Jim Rickards and several economists, investment bankers, lawyers, and they all seem to think that there is a recession that is coming irrespective of who's president, but it's going to happen on Trump's watch, and we're going to have to be prepared for that. And the word on the street is buy, right? And I don't mean like take care. I mean like purchase. So make sure you buy whatever investments. What Rickards said earlier, I thought was pretty good. He said gold, silver, land, and natural resources are the way to go during that time because they're going to go up, and you're gonna make some good returns on your investment. So keep that in mind. But amen to that, right? We do have a good commander in chief, and I'm grateful for it as well. Pete, listening from Central Illinois, thank you for your call. Shout out to WLS. Let's go to Betty, Aberdeen, South Dakota, KSDN. Betty, go for it.
Hi, Rich. I didn't tell him this, but when are they going to give you 4 hours?
Oh, my goodness. Let me tell you, I would love that fourth hour. I'm really looking forward to it because, when we get to the calls in the third hour, because there's so much to cover in the first two, I oftentimes, I'm rushing at the end. I can't get to all the calls. I love that you said that, and I'm grateful. I'm grateful for the 3 hours I got, and I'm hoping we get that fourth hour, Betty.
Me too, because I would stay up. Anyway, I had a conversation with a friend of mine, and she felt like people voted for Trump because they were afraid of a civil war. And then she also mentioned that January 6th and how, what she saw on television January 6th. I'm wondering if there will ever be something that we know what really happened on January 6th, and there will be like a resolution to that. And also,
Betty,
have you heard other people say that that people voted for Trump because they were afraid?
Yeah, I can't say that I've heard that. But again, that whole idea of the democracy, and we talked about that last night with Hogan Gidley. And I agree that democracy was under threat in the Republic, in the sense that you had moms that were being trailed by the Department of Homeland Security for showing up at school board meetings and saying they didn't want their kids exposed to the pornography in the books or the transgender push that was on these in these primary schools in their curricula and whatever. So I get that part, and maybe that really moved people. But to me, it had to be really the economy and the border, immigration and inflation. To me, were the big issues that I heard from the callers, from people, and from my own life. But I get it. We saw this massive censorship. The whole reason RFK Jr. is not a Democrat anymore. Bobby Kennedy has left the Democrat Party. Why? Because of censorship. So, I would say he would say that's a threat to democracy. So I get that part. I really do. Does that mean civil war? No, I got to tell you, I'm a real, skeptic when it comes to civil war. I believe that what we saw during, or at least what we read about during the 1800s with Abraham Lincoln, I think that was something that I hope we never see again. And I think there's too many people like me that are just like, I'm happy to have a disagreement with you. And I don't want to kill you if you don't agree with me. I don't look at every last left-leaning Democrat and think, you're destroying my country. You are the enemy of my soul. You can't be around my children. I don't look at them that way. I think of, just look at this election. Look how many Democrats are voting for Trump. I know I don't have enough fingers and toes to count how many people I know that were anti-Trump and now voted for him. So, I think the most hardcore Trumper, if you will, ask them, did you vote for Obama twice? I think most of them will say yes. This isn't a movement of conservatives. Conservatives happen to be part of the movement. So I think that people are realizing that, these are common sense solutions. They make a lot of sense, and they're jumping on the Trump train, not because it's a cult of personality and because it's Trump, but because the guy makes sense. And because he's Trump, he's able to make sense in a way that's very marketable. And I think that's fantastic. I don't think it's about the Civil War thing. But again, it could be. I don't know. But that's not my take. Betty, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let me see. Where do we go here? Where do we go? We can go to Paul. Boise, Idaho, KBFI. Paul, go right ahead, brother.
Thanks for taking my call, Rich.
Of course.
Stellar show once again.
Thank you, brother.
Topic is awesome. I didn't think we'd have this topic about an after Trump victory. This is just too much. This word unity, I'm not really sure what definition the left has for it, but whatever it is, it doesn't have the same meaning as it does for me, and I think for you as well. They use that as a buzzword. It doesn't mean that we want to come together. It means we're going to use it to push you away.
Yeah, it means fall in line with what we think, or else.
Yeah, exactly. You got to fall in line with us, and that's the way we're going to save democracy. And I think the thing that pushed the button on all the early voters was the fact that that case was taken by Youngkin in Virginia to the Supreme Court about getting those people off the voter rolls that were illegal aliens that had a driver's license that thought that they could vote, and they voted. And Youngkin said no. And the rest of the country heard and saw that. And I think that was a huge swing of the votes. I really do. But it comes right down to Trump. The guy he's the Energizer bunny on steroids. I've never seen anything like it. Not because the man is 78, but he is tirelessly always thinking and doing. And he's not just saying these things for the American public, for you and I and the rest of America. He loves us because he knows that he wants us to succeed. And that's going to make him happy, and not just popular, but it's going to make him happy.
Really well put, Paul. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. God bless you, brother. And big shout out to everybody listening in Idaho, KBFI. We're going to continue with your calls and more. I got calls from North Carolina, South Carolina, Chicago, and more. The number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez.
Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Feminism has definitely ruined all of that. Where it comes to men being men step up. I don't know if you guys saw that article that there was some girl that was drowning and the guy saved her life, and then he was like, she was going to sue him for touching her. Oh, he touched me without my consent. You were under the water, you were dying. Like, he literally saved your life. And she's like, well, for a brief moment, I was grateful that I was alive. This is why men don't step up, because when they do the right thing, they get crucified. If you want better men, be better women, because it starts with you. How you act, how you carry yourself, how you talk to them. Treat a man like a king, he'll treat you like a queen.
That is a clip from the Whatever podcast. And if you want better men, be better women. I want to get your thoughts on that. Of course, the phone number 833-482-5337, adding a new conversation to the topic here. A new topic to the conversation, I should say. But I also want to get your thoughts on the election and everything else we've been discussing. We talked about the economy at great length this evening. We talked about Congress holding on to a majority. We've talked about really just a lot of topics. So I want to get your thoughts. Let's go to Jeremy in Beaufort, North Carolina, WTKF. WTKF, that's my buddy Matt country. I haven't heard from Matt in a while. Jeremy, go right ahead.
Good evening, sir. Love your show, man. Appreciate what you do. I want to say I am super excited Trump won, and I really hope he, anybody that did do anything criminal or corruption, he does go after him while he's in office. I hope he doesn't back down from that. But my main question was, because I haven't found much information about it, I want to see if you knew anything about it, was about 11 or 12 o'clock on election night while we were all enthralled watching it. I saw some press briefing about Netanyahu firing his defense minister, and the Israeli citizens started rioting and stuff about it. So,
I saw something about that too, and I didn't see any report that came across my way. I just saw a video about it, and I don't know how accurate it was. So I really don't have the scoop on that.
Yeah, it was a press briefing from the White House. They interrupted on Fox News while I was watching the election. So I mean, it's legitimate, but I can't find any information about it. That's why I wanted to ask, because obviously way more people than I do.
Yeah, it was something I meant to talk to General Holt about when we had him on earlier, but it just didn't. It didn't materialize as part of our conversation. But it doesn't surprise me. They have a very fractured government there because it's a parliamentary system. So there's constantly these coalition government efforts. For example, the last prime minister was Benny Gantz, who was like one of his biggest critics, but they came together now in this most recent coalition government to help Bibi, go after Hamas. And this has been a, very contentious. I mean, just imagine, Trump teaming up with Harris, to work on a project together. I mean, this is constantly what's happening in Israel with the result of these parliamentary coalition governments. So I think it's par for the course, and makes me appreciate our system, the one that everybody complains about, saying, oh, it's a two-party system. That's the problem. It's this and that. It's the uniparty. All of that may be true, but I think our system is better than everybody else's, and we got to work with what we got. Jeremy in Beaufort, North Carolina, thank you for your call, my brother. I appreciate it. Let us continue. Where do we go? We go to Debbie. Debbie's in Canton, Ohio, WNIR. Debbie, go right ahead.
Yes. Hi, Rich. It's good to talk to you again. I just
Likewise.
had to call in because, I listen to your show when I shouldn't be. I should be sleeping.
Right.
But I just wanted to say from the bottom of my heart, I did not vote for Trump and never have. I don't like him as a person, and I guess that's my thing. I just, if I was going to hire somebody, he wouldn't be the guy I would hire. However, most of America decided that he's the guy. And so I'm not going to be angry about that. I'm going to go with them and say, all right, guys, you think he's the guy? I'm going to get behind him, and I'm going to hope the hell that he does what he says he's going to do and make everybody happy. And I want us to not be angry about it. I'm not that kind of person, and I don't think any of us should be angry about it. We should just vote for, go with everybody, and wish the best for everyone. That's all I got to say. And I'll listen
I love
to you
that.
every night.
Well, Thank you, Debbie. Number one, thanks for listening. Without listeners, there's really no radio show. And number two, I love what you're saying, because that's ultimately the right attitude, I think. And it's not even one I've always had. Like, I think I gave Biden that first 100 days. I had every suspicion that he was not going to be what I expected him to be. And he came true, right? He proved me right that he was not going to be what I wanted him to be. But I still, I think in my mind, at least, I gave him the benefit of the doubt. But ultimately, that's what we want to do, right? And like you said, he wasn't your choice of candidate. I get that. He wasn't your cup of tea. I get that too. but you're not going to now demonize him and say he's not your president and launch a vendetta against the guy. And I think that's important because that's the same thing that I think many of us afforded to Obama. Some of us may not have, but many of us did. And I think that's what we need to do with Trump here. I think Trump came across very conciliatory, and he really wants to do what's best. And we got to give him a shot now. This is it. It's his turn, and I really appreciate what you're saying because I think you're saying the right things. Debbie in Canton, Ohio, thank you for staying up late with us. I really appreciate you. Folks, we're going to take a quick pause right here. Then we're coming back. I got a really good call lined up for you when we come back. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Nora, I wanted to pick up what John is saying, and you too, Cecilia, when you said, you used to think it was about your morals, your integrity, and your character. When we started out the evening, we said that the Harris campaign said that they were nauseously optimistic. Last time I checked, nausea is never a good thing. The Trump campaign was cautiously optimistic. And when I was in Pennsylvania talking to people, I had person after person, Trump supporter, say to me, yeah, he's mouthy, but I'm mouthy. Yeah, he doesn't tell the truth, but every politician lies. Yeah, he doesn't represent the values that I hold dear, but that's not what I'm looking for. I want to know, can this person do the job? And time after time after time, it came back to immigration, really hard on immigration, and the economy. But when I asked, who would you trust to babysit your children? Nobody. Only one person chose Donald Trump. And I just think, when you put it in that context, I'd like to know what that says about us as a country. What does this mean? John, is it a brand new party? Is it a brand new day? And we should also say nobody has 270 yet either. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the Harris campaign is still nauseously optimistic, but I bet they're getting a little sicker now as the night progresses.
That is Gail King, very upset that Kamala's campaign was nauseously optimistic. That was a clip from election night that I just had been holding. I wanted to play it for you. But they were very upset. The media was having a meltdown. And so many people are upset that Kamala Harris, who I like to call Kamala Harris, didn't win. She, in fact, lost. Let's go to Charleston, South Carolina, WTMA, and check in with Jerome. Jerome, what's going on? I thought your girlfriend was going to win.
She's still my girlfriend. That's my baby girl. Ain't nothing you say, nothing you can do going to change that. But I just wanted to say this. Hey, Gil, what do you think about El Trumpito and that video with Billy Bush saying, when you're a celebrity, you can do whatever you want. They let you get away with it. Does that include the women in his family, too? Which one of you think I'll be able to grab and hold and squeeze and fondle, huh? And not go to prison? Which one of them? Because, I do like blondes sometimes. I'm a man of many colors. I'm a lover, not a fighter. But ain't no way in hell I'm ever going to do that to a woman, okay? I would never force myself for any woman. And I would not want anybody else's daughter to have a man force himself on them. But, hey, does that include immunity for him, too? How many women is he going to fondle when he's in the...
Well, Jerome, hold on. You're getting ahead of yourself here. First of all, what he told Billy Bush was, he said, well, like when you're a superstar, it's like they'll let you grab them by the... Right? He said they let you. So he wasn't forcing himself on anybody. It was more like an invitation that he was accepting as a billionaire playboy. But am I justifying that? No. It was locker room talk as he described it. He was talking smack with Billy Bush and... talking about his playboy life, when you own Mar-a-Lago and Trump Tower and all those things, you know, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of advances that come your way. I had a friend, actually a former colleague at an organization I worked for about 10 years ago. And this guy was a cameraman for a major cable news network. And he had been to the White House several times to video several former presidents. And he told me that when he was in the White House, when Bill Clinton was in office, that women literally would take their undergarments and like fold them into their hand and shake the president's hand and give him the undergarment in his hand. I'm not making this up. In my Joe Biden voice, it's not a joke. It's not a joke. This is for real. So, yeah, that's the type of stuff that happened. When you are a rock star, when you're a celebrity, when you are a man of status, this occasionally happens, from what I understand, Jerome.
Right. When you're a celebrity, they let you get away with it. That does include the women in his family?
Again, I think he said they let you get away with it. So I'm not going to put words in anybody's mouth, but it's clear that he didn't do anything wrong. He hasn't done anything wrong. And from then till now, he's a changed man, right? This is a guy that's talking about a lot of different things. This man's the president now 2 times over. He's got to act the part, and I think he's rising to the occasion.
I just want America to know I love your hypocrisy, America. I love you. I would never sell you out, but I love your hypocrisy even more.
Well, amen. Amen. Where would we be without hypocrisy? Listen, ultimately, I understand. Nobody likes these types of comments. I got it. America didn't like it then, and they still elected him. And now they elected him twice. I don't know that it's enough to say, wow, I don't like what he said about being a billionaire and, attracting women. And if that's going to be enough for me to not vote for the guy. It sounds to me like nitpicking. I mean, what he said privately on a bus doesn't even come close to what so many rappers and others put in their music. So I don't take exception to those people. I listen to reggaeton, right? If you've ever listened to any of the reggaeton that comes out of Puerto Rico, man, it can get pretty raunchy. So, I would be a hypocrite to say, I am so shocked and appalled at what Trump said. It wasn't so shocking and appalling to me. It seems like regular billionaire talk. And again, the way he phrased it, I get it. Do I recommend it? No, I don't recommend it, but it is what it is. Jerome in Charleston, South Carolina, thank you for calling. I wouldn't be able to gloat this much if you didn't call. God bless you, my brother. Folks, we're going to take a pause right here. We're coming right back to your calls and more. Plus, yesterday I promised you a clip from Scott Jennings on CNN, who was explaining almost like a translator to the Democrats as to why they lost. And it was really remarkable. It's kind of like a mic drop moment where they just stayed quiet at the end. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. No hair, no care, and live on the air, it's Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. We go to the phones. Sherry, Santa Barbara, California, KVTA. Sherry, go for it. Your thoughts on men and women?
On women making men better by quit letting them cheat. Quit going after other women's boyfriends and husbands.
No, I think that's a fair point. If people are letting their husbands cheat, it's news to me. I haven't heard about that. Maybe that's what's going on in Santa Barbara. Thank you, Sherry, for your call. I appreciate it. I always love it when people from KVTA area call in. I hope you'll call in again soon. Thank you so much. And something I mentioned right before we took the pause was this clip from Scott Jennings. And he is the Republican on CNN. And he, I think he used to work for McConnell. And his statements, though, were great. He really almost like translated to Van Jones and all the rest of the people that were like dumbfounded on CNN. He was explaining, here's what really happened. Check this out.
This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line, and we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best. That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
The Democrats have handed this election to Trump. Democrats gave Trump the keys to the White House. Now, I know some Democrats are hearing that going, not me, I voted for Trump. Yes, then you did. And those that I didn't vote for Trump. Yeah, well, then you did too. Why? I'm not going to paint with a broad brush, but in the same way I am. I realize that the left within the Democrat Party is not the person that was looking for RFK Jr. on the ballot. Right? This person that said, I've been Democrat my whole life. I've been a union person my whole life. I get it. You're not the same. When I grew up, there were Democrats that loved America. Both Democrat and Republican would never, ever let the flag hit the floor and would never take a knee during the pledge or the Star-Spangled Banner. That's what it was like when I was a kid. Our differences were many, but they were also few. We loved America. We stood up for America. We believed in doing the right thing. Neither party divided themselves along party lines saying, no, we believe that boys can be girls, girls can be boys. That wasn't a thing. So, Democrats, pay attention. You guys lost this. You had the White House, you were the incumbent, and you lost. The switcheroo didn't work. You handed Trump the win. Learn from it and be better. Be in touch with the American people. Hasta la próxima. Take care. Good night. And God bless you, America. I'm Rich Valdez.